All right, welcome into the Keep Prowling podcast. I am your host, DJ Veal, and right now I'm about to bring you a podcast for Panthers fans, and I'd love to hear from you all about this discussion we're about to have, which is going to be about the draft and this offseason that the Panthers have had. Because if you would have told me back in March when the Panthers traded for the number one overall pick that they would be in as good of a position as they are right now, I would have looked at you and I would have told you were crazy. I would have typed at you and I would have told you you were crazy, because the Panthers have really set themselves up for success with not only this offseason, but also this draft. Having only 5 picks, with the number one overall pick, of course, being kind of their feature pick, we have seen that the Panthers have truly changed the trajectory of their team, and they may actually be maybe even a year and a half, 2 years ahead of schedule compared to what they were going to be. Because let's go back to March real quick, right? When they traded for the number one overall pick, and even if you go back a little bit further, right, throughout last season, they were making some trades. There was some strategy involved in this. It was strategic. They knew exactly what they were doing. The GM over there, he knew exactly what he had planned. But a lot of the fans, me included, were thinking, oh, we getting ready for a rebuild. That's what it is. We getting ready for a rebuild. We're gonna have to take a couple years, right? We probably get a rookie QB. At that time we pick, it's pick number 9. We're gonna have to get a rookie QB. We have to let him develop. Figure out what we're gonna do at receiver by the time March comes around, because we looking around like DJ Moore is gone, Robbie Anderson is gone. What are we doing, right? What are we going to do at the wide receiver position, especially with hopefully a top flight quarterback coming in? But then that day on March, when that day in March, I think it was like the 11th or something like that, right? It was in March. A couple months ago, we saw that trade. That trade came through, and I'm gonna tell. My knee-jerk reaction, my first reaction was they gave up too much. You gave up your number one receiver. You gave up your first-round pick, right? Well, you swapped first-round picks. You gave up picks for next year. Like, they about to go 3 steps back right now. But then the off-season moves started to mount. Adam Thielen was signed. Miles Sanders was signed. Hayden Hurst was signed. DJ Chark was signed. Sha Tuttle was signed, right? And I'm sure there's more that I'm not even thinking about right now. But there was just, they were just being aggressive, right? They were being aggressive, and they had a plan that we didn't even realize that they had at the time. At the time, we were like, this team is crazy, right? This team is crazy. We looking at more seasons of losing and hoping, and a little bit of, we gonna make it. We gonna make it. See, because that's the thing about a rebuilding team, especially if you're a fan. Because for me, tell you a little personal story for DJ Beal right now. I'm a Sixers fan, so I went through the entire process, all of it, from the very beginning, from the time that they had the young core that they had, to the time that Kawhi hit that shot, to the time that Ben Simmons didn't dunk that ball on Trae Young. I remember, right? A little off topic, but I remember what a rebuilding team looks like. So for a fan, it's like another rebuild, right? We haven't really seen huge successes since Cam Newton in a division that is very much so anybody's game every single year. So I know a lot of people were thinking, me included, it's about to be, we getting ready for a rebuild. We're going to have a top flight quarterback. We're going to have some receivers here and there that we'll see. But in actuality, the Panthers have made big move after big move after big move. They've been reeling in the big fish every single time. Adam Thielen, that's a good pickup. DJ Chark, that's a big pickup. Miles Sanders. And then we know they capped it off on Thursday night with quarterback Bryce Young, the guy who makes every play you can make. He is magic. He is miraculous in the pocket, or outside the pocket for that matter. The guy is just a top flight talent. And, there's a reason why he was touted as the number one pick. I think he surpassed C.J. Stroud in this last year because he showed like, hey, I can do I can do more with less. He's shown that, give me the right pieces where I need them, and we're going to make magic happen. And I think that's exactly what Bryce Young is going to do. That's why we're seeing so much excitement, right? That's why we're seeing so much excitement in Charlotte, because we understand, like, this dude, Bryce Young, is not only special, but the fans are feeling like, hey, like this is an opportunity for a turnaround to happen, especially in a division where you were literally let's think about it. This is the division that is anybody's game. This is the division where the Panthers had a chance. The Panthers, who ended up with the number one pick, had a chance to host a playoff game in Charlotte if they would have beat the Bucks. I think it was in week 17. So the Panthers are not as far away as we may think they are. And in the addition of Bryce Young and, of course, Jonathan Mingo later on in the draft too, to pair him with these other guys, right? We're pairing him with Adam Thielen. You're pairing him with DJ Chark, right? I think Laviska Shenault is still on there. But, you're pairing him with guys who are veterans who he can learn from, and he can potentially take that number one spot coming up in hopefully the next couple of years. Because the thing about Adam Thielen is he's very unselfish. So, I mean, you kicked off the draft with Jonathan Mingo and Bryce Young, not in that order, but you kicked off the draft with two special guys, two guys with so much potential that, it gives you a lot of room to feel good about the team that you have coming back. But then, of course, we know Bryce Young was selected number one overall. We know that the city is buzzing about this guy, no pun intended, right? For the Hornets right across the street, right? No pun intended. But we know that the city is buzzing. We know that the city is ready for something new. This city hasn't seen true football success in a very, very long time, right? Since 2011 when it was Cam Newton and he came through and ran through the league, and they hoping that Bryce Young can be that guy. I don't think he will be. I know a lot of people are worried about him being short. A lot of people are worried about the potential of, him being too small, getting injured or whatever. But, I mean, coming from a guy who really doesn't have a deep injury history, right, and a guy who's made plays despite his size regardless, because offensive linemen are huge, right? Like, this is a guy who is going to make plays. He's going to find a way to make plays. Like, he's going to find open windows right through the offensive line. He's going to move out of the pocket. He's going to make magic happen. I mean, he's a guy, when you watch him play, he looks like, maybe like a Kyler Murray almost, like where like it's just like you never know what's going to happen on any given play. He looks like Russell Wilson, where you're like, like, and he's a good decision maker too. Just because he's moving around trying to figure out where he can go with the ball, that doesn't mean that his decision making is not top notch either. Now, albeit I know, CJ Stroud, I think he had a little chip on his shoulder after being selected second by the Texans. And, I think he's going to be good. I think, the rest of the prospects, those QB prospects with Anthony Richardson and Will Levis selected in that order, one to the Colts, one to the Titans, that will make that AFC South kind of interesting too. But, and, I think that's the thing about it, man. Like, the league is becoming this parity-driven league now, right? Like, we've all, football fans, we've been saying it. Any given Sunday, we've been saying this for like a decade, and it won't really any given Sunday. It was like if you lined up against certain teams, like yes, any given Sunday, but it's a little easier sometimes to it's not a cakewalk. Nothing in the NFL is a cakewalk, but it was one of those things where it was like, this team's down bad. We gonna make sure that they stay down bad. But now, we've seen like the Jets getting crucial victories, the Jaguars getting crucial victories, the Panthers getting crucial victories. And even still, like the way the draft played out too, like we've seen that this league is going to be anybody's ball game, right? It's going to be anybody's ball game. The AFC South is crazy, right? The NFC South is always crazy, right? So, this league, I think it just gets better. Gets better year after year after year. So, of course, and you got, I think it feels like too that the Panthers hit every need that they had, right? The Panthers had needs and they hit every one of them. Of course, you got quarterback, you got wide receiver to help out with the wide receiver depth. Give Jonathan Mingo a chance to learn under some veteran guys and, And even with Bryce Young, give him a chance to learn under a guy named Andy Dalton, right, who you just signed earlier in the offseason too, as a guy as a veteran presence in case you need him to start day one or whatever it may be. Like, give Bryce Young a chance to continue to develop. But then on top of that, DJ Johnson out of Oregon, a big guy who's going to take up a whole lot of space, but also like what I've seen with DJ Johnson when watching some of his film. DJ Johnson is a guy who sheds at the perfect time, right? Like, I don't think he's the fastest guy. I don't think he's even the biggest guy, but he has this way of shedding off of blocks, whether it's run plays, whether it's pass plays. He has this ability to shed off of blocks at the perfect time. And you're like, oh my goodness, how is he everywhere you need him to be all at the same time? I think he's got some potential to continue to develop and really get up to the speed of, life at the NFL level. Chandler Zavala, the offensive guard that they ended up getting later on. Like, he was a guy who was really strong, really agile. He just has this way. I mean, when you watch him move, I think where's he from? NC State, I think it was. When you watch him move, he really just moves in a way that's he just got this fluidity to him. He got this smoothness to him, right? Where he just, he's exactly where you need to be. And I mean, that was both run plays and pass. I mean, because like for him, I didn't really see, I didn't see him pancaking anybody or nothing like that. But like he has this level of like finesse to him, where he's kind of like that gentle giant almost, And then Jamie Robinson, the safety out of South Carolina, I wouldn't necessarily say he's a ball per se, or either that or they don't throw to his side, but Jamie Robinson is a tackling machine. He's a guy that you can potentially put in that nickel corner, in that nickel linebacker spot. You can put him in there and let him roam around, let him attack these fast, agile quarterbacks, and he's got a good one to roam around with in practice too. So Jamie Robinson becomes a guy who you can plug and play and put him in a couple of different positions, and that's kind of what we're seeing throughout the NFL. I saw with the Ravens and Trenton Simpson, like you're seeing more of these versatile players, more of these guys who you can put at safety, you can put at linebacker, you can get them to rush the passer, you can get them to drop back in coverage, you can get a little bit of everything out of them. They may not necessarily even be great at anything in particular, but their ability to be very good at so many different areas becomes a talking point for them. And I think Jamie Robinson is one of, I mean, the dude, like, he had like almost 100 tackles last year at the safety position. He's a tackling machine, right? He has good form when he tackles, and he's a guy who, I mean, he's a guy who's going to be flying around everywhere. And that looks like what you got, especially, with Johnson and Robinson. You got two guys who are going to be everywhere, and you put them in with Shaq Thomas and these guys. Like, you put them in with some of the guys you already got, and I think this defense has potential to get better too. This is a defense that was, by ranking wise, middle of the pack, but I think they had some games where they shut some potentially good offenses down. The Ravens were one of them, where they shut teams down and they competed with the guys in front of them. So I think there's very much so potential for this draft to fit perfectly with the rest of this offseason. I think the Panthers had a plan. Going back to it, you got Miles Sanders, you pair him with Bryce Young. I mean, that's going to be a lot of fun, as an offense. I mean, I think the stadium is going to be jumping up and down. And that was the funny part too. Like, you see some of the excitement outside of the stadium. I mean, it hasn't been like that since 2011. I know, as I was watching some of the coverage, I know Bayako sports reporter Kelly Bardick was telling us about how she was there in 2011. She was there in 2011. She understood the importance of Cam getting drafted and what it meant to the community and his kind of pretty much immediate impact. And I think a lot of people see that out of Bryce Young too. They see everybody buzzing a little bit. They see everybody like, oh wow, the stadium, and all the reporters out there with Jeff Taylor, John Trish, I think they saw, right? They got to see firsthand. The fans are out here. They're excited. I mean, it was a pack. They packed the whole stadium. Even through the rain, they were still ready to see who they were going to get at number one, at the number one pick. And then a lot of people fell in agreement that Bryce Young is that guy. And then on top of that, the offseason additions, right? Like you said, Bryce Young, Miles Sanders, pair them together, that's dangerous. Then the ability to attack at pretty much every level of the field, right? Adam Thielen, a guy who can get deep on you, but if you need to, he can run a little underneath route too and break some tackles. Jonathan Mingo, a guy who, as a lot of us know, Steve Smith Sr. described a bowling ball. He's fast enough to get past you, but strong enough to run through you. Jonathan Mingo is going to be a big piece of that, and then DJ Chark. I mean, we've seen this guy is just, he can catch anything you throw at him. He caught one over Darius Slay last year, and you were like, oh my goodness, this guy. Honestly, I think the Panthers saw that and they was like, okay, this is, when he became available, that became a topic of conversation. How in the world can we get DJ Chark? And then Hayden Hurst, another former first round tight end, right? That I know very well, Raven, right? Hayden Hurst, a guy who I think has so much potential. If he can get on a team that believes in him, even just last year with the Bengals, giving him more opportunities is the best thing you can do for Hayden Hurst. But I think it has been an exciting offseason for the Carolina Panthers, and I think this season is going to be fun for, I think, a lot of different teams. I think there's going to be a lot of teams up here on this pedestal. There's going to be a lot of teams that you can be like, oh man, what will they do? But I want to hear from you. What do you think is the biggest addition that the Panthers have made this offseason? Draft included. Was it drafting Bryce Young? Was it signing one of the many guys that they signed over this offseason? What has been your top pick for what the Panthers have done with their offseason? Let me know on Facebook.com/BayHackleSports or Twitter.com/BayHackleSports. There will be an article where you can comment and let me know what you think. But this has been the Keep Prowling podcast. I'm excited to be with you all season, and I definitely hope to hear from you all soon. I will see you guys next week with another episode of the Keep Prowling podcast.